It's the end of the day, 50,000 years ago, and you are starving. There's no fridge, no farm, no menu, no market, no forgotten leftovers in a box. Whatever you eat tonight, you, or someone you love, had to find it, chase it, dig it up, or climb for it.
So what's for dinner?
Today, so what's for dinner? If you're picturing a caveman tearing into a giant slab of mammoth meat by the fire, you've been lied to. Big Mammoth has been running the marketing on this for decades, and honestly, incredible work. For almost the entire human story, food wasn't something you bought. It was something you knew. Which route was safe, which berry would kill you, where the bees were hiding, and which season the river filled with fish. The real diet of ancient humans was stranger, smarter, and honestly a lot more delicious than a slab of mammoth. It involved digging, a daring bird partnership, handfuls of bugs, and the one food humans are still completely obsessed with today. So what did ancient humans actually eat? Let's find out. Let's kill the biggest myth first, the all-meat caveman. For most ancient humans, most of the time, dinner came out of the ground, not off a spear. Hunting is dramatic, but it's also unreliable. You can chase an animal all day and come home with nothing. Gathering, on the other hand, almost always pays, so the steady day-to-day calories came from plants, tubers dug out of the dirt, nuts, seeds, fruit, and berries. Look at the Hadza of Tanzania today. When the hunt fails, and it often does, the group still eats because someone dug up a pile of starchy tubers. For decades, textbooks called our ancestors man the hunter, as if spears alone built our species. But flip that around, the humble digging stick, just a sharpened length of wood for prying roots out of the earth, probably fed more ancient humans than every spear ever thrown. It just doesn't make for an exciting cave painting. And here's a detail that gets ignored. The most dependable food bringers in many groups weren't the hunters at all. They were the gatherers, often the women and often the grandmothers, who kept digging and sharing long after they stopped having children of their own, quietly providing the majority of the calories that kept everyone alive. And we can prove people ate this way. Hardened plaque on ancient teeth, yes, prehistoric tartar, is packed with microscopic starch grains from roots and even wild grains, tens of thousands of years before farming was invented. But here's the twist. There was never one single paleo diet. An ancient human in the Arctic ate almost nothing but meat and fat, because nothing grows on ice. One in a tropical forest ate fruit and roots nearly year-round. The menu changed with every landscape. What they shared wasn't a food, it was fiber, mountains of it. Wild plants so full of roughage they'd shock a modern stomach. Which means the trendy paleo diet, mostly steak and bacon, is basically the one thing actual Paleolithic people almost never got to eat. Nature's little prank. The caveman wasn't a carnivore. He was mostly, reliably, a forager. That said, meat absolutely mattered. It just didn't always look like hunting. Early on, we were scavengers, and we found a genius angle no other animal had. When lions and hyenas finished a kill, they left the bones. But inside those bones was marrow, and inside the skull, the brain, pure fat, the most calorie-dense food around, sealed away where most scavengers couldn't reach it. We had stone hammers. We cracked the bones open and ate the fat everyone else left behind. Some scientists think this humble act, smashing a bone for marrow, was the original fast food, the calorie jackpot that helped kickstart our growing brains. Later came real hunting. Where the big game roamed, humans took it, mammoths, giant deer, bison, usually through clever teamwork, driving herds off cliffs or picking off the weak. But a mammoth was a rare jackpot, not a Tuesday dinner. And the single most prized food in the entire ancient world? Honey. Pound for pound, it's about the most energy-packed thing in nature, and humans everywhere are obsessed with it. To get it, we made an ally you would never guess. A bird. The honeyguide. This little bird actually leads people to bees' nests on purpose. In a 2016 study, biologist Claire Spottiswoode showed that the greater honeyguide responds to a special call hunters make and flies ahead, guiding them tree to tree, straight to a hive. The human smokes out the bees and breaks open the nest. The bird gets the wax. Everybody eats. A wild animal and a human working as a team, a partnership that may be tens of thousands of years old. A bird and a human running a joint honey business long before either side invented money. Beat that, LinkedIn. And it didn't stop there. Ancient humans ate insects by the handful, rich in protein and fat. And on the coast, they ate the sea. At Pinnacle Point in South Africa, people were cracking open shellfish 164,000 years ago. But the real secret weapon wasn't a food at all. It was a technique, cooking. Primatologist Richard Wrangham argues that cooking is the thing that actually made us human. Here's why.
Here's
When
why.
you cook
First,
food,
point
meat,
1.
tubers,
Second,
anything,
point 2.
the heat starts
And
breaking
third,
it down
point
before
3.
it ever reaches your stomach. Cooked food gives up far more of its calories, and your body barely has to work to digest
This
it.
food isn't just
Compare us
delicious,
to a
it's
gorilla,
bursting
which
with
eats
megacalories
everything
for
raw
high
and has to
energy
spend
and
something
easy
like 8
digestion.
hours a day just chewing. 8 hours. That's a full-time job, and the only thing on the menu is leaves. We light a fire, cook, and we're done in minutes with energy to spare. That surplus is what fed our hungry, expensive brains, and it let our guts shrink because we no longer needed a giant fermentation tank to process raw plants. But cooking did even more than that. It unlocked entire foods that had been off limits. Many wild tubers and grains are toxic or impossible to digest when raw, but throw them on the coals, and the heat neutralizes the poisons and bursts open the hard starches inside. Cooking didn't just improve the menu, it expanded it, flipping whole categories of plants from do not eat to everyday staple. And here's the proof that this isn't optional for us anymore. There is not a single human culture on Earth that eats everything raw. Even today, dedicated raw foodists with blenders, supplements, and a whole supermarket behind them often struggle just to keep weight on. Turns out you cannot outblend 2 million years of evolution. Our bodies now quietly assume the food shows up pre-cooked. We didn't only learn to cook, we evolved to need it. Remember that fire from the cave, the one that kept the predators out at night? It was also quietly rebuilding us from the inside. We are, in the most literal sense, the cooking ape. So here's the truth nobody puts on a diet book cover. The original human diet wasn't a diet at all. There were no rules, no forbidden foods, no single sacred menu. It was wildly diverse, deeply seasonal, and gloriously opportunistic. Plants on most days, fat and marrow when they could get it, honey when they were lucky, bugs, eggs, shellfish, whatever the land and the season handed them. Some weeks were a feast, some were near starvation. And that is exactly the point. There was never one caveman meal to copy, because the whole strategy was variety. Eat anything, waste nothing, adapt to everything. It's the least glamorous superpower imaginable, and it carried us onto every continent on Earth. So the next time you open a fridge stocked with food flown in from every corner of the planet for basically zero effort, take a second. For 300,000 years, every single meal was earned, dug, chased, cracked open, or climbed for. Your ancestors were the most adaptable eaters that ever lived, and that restless, eat-anything curiosity is a big part of why you're here today, comfortable enough to be picky about lunch. This is Sketchient. Subscribe and stay curious about where we came from.